This is my wife. She said, I can't believe they got it zoned where everything is behind the woods.
Mhm.
You know, like, well, that's the
The
woodlands.
woodlands,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, that's the college at the university. Come and see how they're there, which one, to give them cell service.
Matt said they never lost cell service. They lost power for probably about 8 hours. He's on the northwest side, so, I forget what the little town is, but he's closer to.
Probably with the Katie, that's the Katie.
Oh, no. Yes, it's the best way to say it.
It's 5 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you would take a look at the minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any changes that need to be made?
I'm not finished reviewing. Seems like it's more of a story than it is for minutes, but I'm finished.
Okay, do we have any changes that need to be made or any motions for approval?
Did you hear your change? Yeah, I've already.
Yep.
Yeah.
You gave some changes to Adam? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other changes or motions to approve?
I move that be approved.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Uh,
You're opposed?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right, moving on to discussion items. Adam, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding airport financials.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, if my voice goes out. In your packet, you've got the profit and loss statement and the, also your balance sheet for the month of, June. Quickly go over some of the numbers. Total income is $218,054.69 for the period. Gross profit, $106,583.73. Total expense, $48,594.71, leaving us a net operating income of $57,989.02. That's all I have for the profit and loss statement. Moving on to the balance sheet, just some of the key takeaways. A lot of this is our assets, obviously. Right under the first, about midway, you'll see accounts receivable, $30,134.90. That's essentially our account holders that carry over balance because technically it's not due until the 15th. And then other current assets is our inventory, which is $123,647.76. Total assets, $13,942,497.39. That's all I have with the financials.
Adam, what's the, other income and other expenses? Can you explain in detail what those are?
On the P&L?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of that is going to be our airport maintenance. That is also going to be our interest only payment for our bank bond. So that's basically what that is made up of. And to my knowledge, I believe it's that and one other, it may be prepaid.
Prepaid insurance?
Prepaid insurance.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
Any other questions on the financials?
why are we not paying, why are we just paying interest only? Why aren't we paying it down?
What was approved by the board and discussed was making interest only payments. until essentially we accept the project. And that's was in the loan documents that was approved by the.
So, yeah, well, I understood that you were gonna use the money from the state every year to pay back the loan.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, and we have not had the grant offer letter from the FAA. We've got a go letter, but the actual grant document has not been submitted to the entities. For
But that money's gonna go towards the principal,
correct,
for sure.
316,000 and some change.
Oh, sir. Very good.
Any other questions on the financials? Adam, are you seeking approval for these financials?
Yes, ma'am.
Move to accept the financials as presented.
All right, we have a motion to accept as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. Moving on to discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding airport projects. Adam?
Yes, ma'am. So starting in the Northwest, just kind of go over it and recap a little bit. We are waiting on the contractor. We've had a little bit of discrepancy as far as what was actually laid down versus what was designed. And so waiting on the contractor to basically get through with their internal audit of, basically their survey of what's actually there and coming up with a remedy. We've had to get a little more, into the weeds as far as, forcing them, and there's been some discussion back and forth on that. I'm hoping that, in the next week, as we have a meeting, that we have that remedied so that we can open that up and, start discussing some ground leases there. As far as the additional work, we've got a parking area over here, and we have the, helipad, apron area on the southeast by the, co-op hangar. Those are now being operated on. Those have been fruitful as far as our way of doing day-to-day operations, relieving a hotspot as far as the helicopters go, getting them further away from private hangars, getting them further away from our corporate hangar as well. The GMC or the team is working to get the documents to the FAA. I believe that we've satisfied everything as of today, as far as our grant application to get our 3.2 million matching grant down there on the southeast taxiway. The sewer, we've been back and forth, Limestone County Water and Sewer. They keep proposing changes, we keep making changes, and then they come back with more changes. We've had a meeting recently to put all concerns to bed and essentially move the project out for bid. And I'm hoping that is in the next coming weeks. The last piece that we're doing right now is going back to ADECA, where we got the majority of the funds, and making sure they approve of the new design with the changes. And so we're in that review process as of right now. That's all I have as far as airport projects.
Any questions for Adam on airport projects?
What's the status of AI? When are they gonna start rolling?
I have not heard from AI since last board meeting. I have reached out on 2 occasions. But as of this, the last that I heard is that, the medical issues, and I'm not sure where they are. I know that the contractor has been in communication with them at one point, and they kind of went back and forth on one item that they had on their agenda to discuss as far as some of the civil plans. That's all I've got as far as AI.
So they're not returning your phone call, or you have to call
It's emails.
them? So they haven't returned your email, or you have an email,
I haven't, no,
but they haven't returned it?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Moving on to discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding North Alabama Airfest. Adam?
Yes, ma'am. Last month we discussed North Alabama Airfest. After that meeting, I went out and basically created a plan and started trying to execute that plan without spending any funds. We have, print material. I just want to noteworthy, the print material for the packets that you see, I've spent out of my own pocket to have tangible packets to give out. That was not with authority dollars. So far, we have not spent any funds whatsoever. With the budget in mind, I have, to change a few things that was presented at last, board meeting, which of course we didn't approve the budget. We wanted to go out and get sponsorships and kind of see what the return on that would be as far as interest. I would say that we've got an overwhelming response so far. It's been about, I would round up and say 3 weeks, that we've been out and about for sponsorships. As of, the board meeting, walking in, we've, got $40,650 committed to the air show as far as sponsorships. The original budget that I presented, we showed sponsorship on a conservative level of $86,500. So theoretically, we're basically halfway there as far as the original. Now, this budget that's in front of you, go through it quickly. I've got a few numbers tweaked. Sponsorships, I have increased it because when I made the actual sponsorship packet, I didn't have that made before last board meeting. So I've kind of changed that based on some recommendations from some folks and just kind of us putting some ideas and looking at other events in the area and kind of what's custom. And so I've increased that to 110,000. This is very conservative. I wanted to say what's the worst case scenario, and this was theoretically before I got basically $40,000 worth of sponsorships. I believe this is a number that will surpass, but as of right now, we're showing 110,000 for sponsorships. Vendor fees, this is our food trucks, our for-profit, nonprofit vendors, and special vendors, you know, those that may get rides out or something like that, ATMs. We've got a set fee for them. So we're showing $15,750 for the vendor fees. Tickets, we're showing a conservative 145,000 for tickets. This is comprised of, you know, basically so many VIP tickets, so many pre-ticket sales, and so many retail at the gate the day of the event. Miscellaneous, we're showing 35,000. This is comprised of essentially items for resale. Last year, we operated several Pepsi booths to sell water and sodas and other things. Last year in the budget, I think it was knocking on the door of 38,000 for the miscellaneous. We're showing 35. So we're going a little conservative there. As far as the expenses, oh, by the way, let me back up. The revenues total is $305,750 as far as total revenue. Going into expense, advertising, we met with a firm to discuss some marketing strategies that was recommended by a friend of the airport. And we've increased that budget. That was the biggest, I guess, strike as far as expenses increasing. So that's at 18,000. Our insurance is at 7,500 for the event. Last year, by the way, was 5,700. So again, we're showing more than what we actually planned to spend, but we just don't know with the insurance market what that's going to be. So we got some fluff there. Performers, we got 90,000. Performers local. So this is, you know, those that we have to hire as far as, you know, things that hotel rooms and other things that are needed to accommodate the performers locally. Facilities, 42,000, labor, 6,500, miscellaneous. This is one that on the last month's budget, I combined two items. I had miscellaneous and I had items for resale. So what I did is I just combined those to one miscellaneous, 21,750. And then I have in here, giving back to the community, through some of the proceeds, scholarships, $10,000. With Calhoun's new A&P program, coming to the surface, and then, you know, with the various, you know, nonprofits that help with the flight side of things, you know, I think this is a good investment, and it helps, you know, sell the event. You know, the good coming out of the event is not just allowing people to come to the airport where a lot of future careers spur and start. It is, you know, a means of giving somebody an opportunity to get their foot in the door in aviation. Total expenses, 240,750. On a profit loss side of things, we're looking at 65,000 in the green. Tonight, seeking approval of the second North Alabama Airfest budget with a portion of the proceeds going towards A&P and a flight scholarship. Stand for questions.
Is there a motion to discuss? Robert's rules are Robert's rules are you make a motion, somebody seconds it, then you open it to discussion. And then.
He asked if there were any questions on what he had presented.
Right,
On what he
I'm just
presented.
asking if the board has a motion. I have a question. The tickets are $145,000, that's $10 a piece.
No, sir, that's ranging from, I believe it's 45,000, or excuse me, $45, for, VIP going down to, pre-ticket sales for some of our sponsors at the pre-ticket level of $8. So it ranges from $8 to, $45 at the event. This is estimated at being $15 a ticket. One ticket gets you one day. It's not good for the whole weekend. So that's how we've changed it up from last year. This is based on, basically 10,000 people.
Did you ever find out how much rain insurance was?
I've got several numbers, and after doing some investigating, I mean, we'll see if it works within the 7,500, but it gets very tedious and it may not be worth it, but I plan to investigate it some more as things progress.
And you have not announced any sort of date yet, correct? So you've done all this without a date.
Correct. Yes, I think we've got a lot of people that are still wanting to sponsor, a ton actually, but you know, they're wanting, their corporate partners wanting a date. You know, we're still kind of having our schedule opened up for the Thunderbirds, Blue Angels, those type of people, Snowbirds. So it kind of gets them kind of a free range to pick. And then of course, you know, they're trying to get their schedule stamped out for 25. You know, basically in this part of the year, and they usually announce at the very end of the year. The Air Boss is working just based on word of mouth and sharing that, you know, we are expecting to have one, that hasn't been approved fully just yet. But it is, something that he is pursuing to get interest from those folks. Usually it's about 4 years to get them. We're hoping with this approach, we can get a major jet team, such as, the Thunderbirds, Blue Angels, or Snowbirds.
Any other questions for Adam?
The scholarships, I think it's great to have scholarships. I wouldn't do it that way. I'd have small sponsors sponsor individual $1,000 sponsors or scholarships during the air show. Then it would be a zero cost to us. And I wouldn't do it for flight school. 90% of the people that go to learn to fly don't even solo. It's almost a waste of money. That's my 2 cents, but I would leave it up to revenues or let sponsors pay for it. You know, an individual could do $1,000 scholarship, gotta be present to get it. You could announce it during, you know, at the end of each performance, have a drawing. And then a small company could participate in sponsorship. That's how I do it.
Theoretically, I guess my thought behind it, to recap there is sponsors are paying for that. You know, we've got a large amount of sponsorships that, you know, an entity, there are several entities out there that, they love to give back to the community. And I think with Calhoun in mind, that's how I come up with this. I try not to leave one major portion of the industry out, but, I do think it'd be really great, and beneficial as far as our partnership with, let's say, Calhoun, to have something like this to present at the air show. But, you know, as far as working it, you know, splitting that up, how does that look? That I haven't done. I just kind of laid the funds on paper and, you know, circle back to that at a different time. But it was made out with Calhoun in mind for the A&P program, kind of help them jumpstart things and kind of help put them on the map as well. You know, last year they gave us their entire parking area, their buses. They really helped us out. We're a great partner. But that was the thought process.
Last week, or last month, your minute said that you needed to know in the 60 days. Is there a reason that do the budget tonight. We can't do it at the next meeting. Cause we only got one main sponsor. Is he sitting in the room?
Our main sponsor so far, are you asking for a dollar amount?
No, there's our main sponsor sitting in the room.
I mean,
Is it
the
somebody?
largest sponsor is not in it.
Do we have to pass this budget tonight? Cause you mentioned within the next 60 days, is there any rush?
If a situation comes up to where I have to make a decision and give a Snowbird, Blue Angels or something confirmation on a day, technically as of right now, because I don't have approval of a budget, I don't have approval to host an air show, I can't make a decision on that. And so the thought, or my understanding was the thought process was that we wanted to get some sort of funding and interest from the community, some buy-in. And I feel that I've achieved that, with essentially what was presented, I've got more than half.
Your sponsorship now says 110, you got 43. That's not half.
Correct. It was the original,
Right.
the original motion, the
Taking
original
apples and
budget.
apples, right? It was 80,000 was last month. Now it's 110, so that's not half. This is what you're asking for tonight, right?
I believe he's saying it was half of the budget that was approved.
We didn't approve the budget.
Well,
No, we didn't.
yeah, we had an approval to go forward and seek basically a feasibility study to see if that plan is
That's not a budget.
And so we
That-
have,
Would you agree that's not a budget, Larry?
That's not an issue.
It's not a budget, is it?
Not an
Do
issue.
we have any further questions for
It's
Adam?
not a budget.
Any further questions for Adam? Okay, do we have any motions? Adam, can you restate what you were asking for?
essentially, I'm seeking approval of the budget, which then grants me the power to host the second North Alabama Air Fest. And of course, I was calling out that we were giving funds back to the community to try to spark interest in aviation workforce.
Do we have any motions?
We need to give it 30 more days.
Can you all give me a target number of what you would like to see? Would you like a main, what? Because I can go out and get, more sponsors and everything else. I'm kind of seeking guidance here from the board. What do I need to do to get this off the ground?
I would need 100% assurance that it's zero cost to us.
Not gonna,
Everybody, I'm not done. Everybody talks about the sunshine law, and you guys remind people, rightfully so, that we can't discuss anything in emails or three people discussing board business, rightfully so. State statute states that we cannot go over the budget without approval. We went over the budget last year at the air show. By anybody's reconciliation, we went over the budget with no resolution. I'm not doing it again. I'm not voting for it. Not without 100% funding. And until I see it, I'm not voting for it. I can't vote for it.
point of order,
We're discussing things.
point of order. The director continues to state that we went over budget. We have an approved financial budget from our financial entity that states we did not go over budget for the air show.
And that's not true.
All right, do either of you two have an answer to Adam's question? You'd like to present?
First, yeah, I'd like to see another 30 days out. I think that when this was brought up, and I said, 90 days, you have done Herculean work this month to get this much done. I'd like to see another 30 days. And then I think I would feel comfortable.
Adam, if you got to 75% of the 110 in sponsorships, I think that's where we need to draw a line in the sand and start giving a date. Because if you say that it takes 4 years to get a major jet team, 2026 is not far enough out, and we don't want to wait that long. But at the same time, you also told us that we had to buy our way into the first air show. We started late. And since the sunshine law was pointed out, there are emails about this. There are also board minutes. There are also all sorts of other documentation that states, you told us what it would take to put on the first air show. We were $23,000. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't $23,000 over budget.
The budget was never $232,000. Point of information, the budget was never $232,000.
Okay, so what was the budget?
$80,000.
Nope,
Yes, it was.
pop out the documents.
They're in our board meeting.
Okay, well, then you should be able
All right.
to.
There's no debate here anyways. We're not debating what happened a year and a half ago. I'm saying,
Thank you. We have this to death today and last month. I'm done talking about it now. Do we have any other discussion for this?
he's the one arguing with it.
Both of you are.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're talking to me. You talk to him too. I'm done. I'm done. There's no resolution. So what's the next thing?
Any more discussion for Adam? Adam, go ahead.
I would just like to point out one thing, you know, the first air show, yes, paying our way through that, I touched on the fact that, my previous air show, in Oklahoma City was about 187,000 in total expense, and it was a free event. And so we took that on in its entirety. Any financial person cannot put a budget together such as this without having a sample. So, knowing what the toilets are gonna cost for 10,000 people, knowing what, the barricades are gonna cost for 10,000 people. We did put on an air show in 7 months. With this budget, just to clarify, this is not a revolving account like the first air show. This is not a bottom line target. This is a line by line target. So for instance, advertising, I'm not going over 18,000. As far as insurance, it's not to exceed 7,500. It is a actual thing that's based on previous expense item through the first air show. I don't believe anyone hosting an event would know what it is 100%. The way that I did present it was a completely different the way that I'm presenting this one. I'm presenting this one with an actual budget line by line, whereas the first one we had a target bottom line expenses minus revenue minus expenses. My target goal was to pay a certain amount, and we missed that by a certain amount. And this one we have set in there projected revenues with more what I'll say is exact expenses that will be not to exceed. So some of these, performers local, I hope not to spend $45,000 on Decatur hotels. I hope it's 35,000. But at that point in time, the first time I didn't have any of those numbers. I didn't have any of it nailed down. This one I am nailing it down. So when you approve me to host the second North Alabama Air Fest with the budget that I'm presenting, that means that this locks me in as far as what the expense will be. There's always variables there. The tickets, 145,000 is very conservative, but if we get 138,000, then obviously the revenues would have to be made up somewhere else, or that revenue will be a little bit less. But nonetheless, this budget is very well thought out. And with this, it would grant me the power to then go to sponsors that have been on the fence, because as of right now, the way that I have to word things is expecting. I can't say, oh yeah, we're 100%, and so from a salesmanship, if any of you are in sales, in marketing, it's very tough to do what I'm doing right now, but yet we've had success because the communities want to see it. The communities enjoy it. And there's a ton of people that missed out, and they are now coming to the table in the form of sponsorships and wanting to participate, volunteer, and all the other things in the event. I do think it's really great because it brings awareness to what we do as an organization, but then also brings awareness to what's to come. And so with that, I'll shut up. But
So Adam, it seems that Mr. Sheriff says that he wants 100% covered. Mr. Hall says that he would like another 30 days to see what else he can do. Mr. Fowler said that he would like to see 75% of the current 110 sponsorships. And for me personally, I think you did a great job getting what you've done in 3 weeks. If you could get that 50% of the 110 for me, that would be a nail in the coffin for me to want to move forward. So,
And we are basically 14, 15,000 away from,
yes.
okay.
All right. Moving on, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding rules and regulations. Mr. Ballard, since you brought this up, I'm going to defer to you.
I make a motion to amend the rules and regulations that all privately owned hangar leases at Pryor Field come before the board for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
What,
do we have discussion?
I'd like to know, what do you mean?
Whenever,
What's the,
whenever a privately owned hangar is going to be transferred lease, it has to come before the board for approval.
okay, so like, the Vision Wheel hangar, if
No,
Roger sold it, privately owned,
prior owned,
Pryor,
prior owned private hangars.
so we'll lease hangars, like the one you lease or one.
I don't
Larry
lease these
leases.
hangars.
Well, you lease it, you own an airplane that's got a lease hangar.
I don't own any airplanes here.
Okay. The hangar that Mr. Hall leases, the one that I lease,
Yes,
before it transfers,
yes.
we not have the guidance in our rules and regulations right now?
We don't, we've had some, to piggyback on that, we've had some recently that have sold, and the only way that I found out about the sale of the aircraft and transfer of things is the fact that staff said, well, so-and-so is buying fuel for that airplane now. And so there's nothing there. We do have rules, that state that, you know, they must provide insurance documents, and such as that. But nothing to that tune.
Okay.
Further discussion? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, one opposed, that passes. Moving on to.
I've got one other thing to add.
Okay.
So in the rules and regulations, and I'm gonna come up with something, I'll present this at next board meeting, hopefully we have full attendance, but, the, discussion last month about the aircraft ad valorem tax. Something that will come up, and it softly came up already, but essentially is, you know, based on just rough estimate of the value of how many airplanes we have. Pryor has got the most based airplanes of any general aviation airport in the state of Alabama. And yet what Limestone County is softly telling me is that there's a lot of people that they're missing the tax money on. And how the state dictates this, because they've come and talked to me, is essentially, they use the software like FlightAware. And so if you're not flying your airplane, you're not coming to Pryor for a lengthy destination, for a lengthy time at this destination, then they're not capturing you as being at Pryor Field to pay your taxes. And so if we have any sort of hangar queen or a blocked in number or anything like that, you're not actually getting picked up to owe Limestone County ad valorem tax. And so this is something that is not in our minimum standards. It is in our ground lease document. So every firm that's coming in, they have to pay all state and local taxes, and it kind of catches everything there, because obviously local taxes is ad valorem tax. But one of the things that would be very beneficial to the airport is getting some of that, if not all of that ad valorem tax back, because we do have a lot of infrastructure projects that funds could cover. You know, our appropriations, you know, we dedicate that to one line item, which is our airport maintenance. And, you know, some years it covers that and other years it doesn't. So that means it's coming out of our bottom line. But there's nothing in the budget to say that we've got to extend a water line or extend power or put down some other infrastructure like fence, a gate, you know, those kind of things as we fully develop the southeast or the northwest. And some of those things don't fall within a grant. So this is something that I think will be beneficial to put into our rules and regulations as we further pursue opportunities to partner with Limestone County.
We don't- Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You said you'll bring that to next meeting?
I'm gonna bring that back next meeting. I wasn't prepared this meeting. I didn't really there's a recent conversation, that's popped up, and so I'll have that to you all next, board packet and, ask for a motion at next meeting.
Oh, it'd be nice if we got the tax instead of the county, right? Because they get all the tax. We don't, we get the appropriations they give us once a year, right?
Yes, sir. And so that's the intent, is to, partner with them to get the ad valorem tax back. For a time period or for a debt, I don't know what I can get there, but I just see a lot of things that, if we build hangars, that's something that we get a max amount, and then we still have extra over. So, the ad valorem tax, it could be $300,000 to $400,000 in ad valorem tax for the north of 145 based airplanes here. Some of them are worth multi-million dollars.
I brought this up when we discussed a lease for somebody that was buying the FBO and the maintenance facility from North Alabama, and the chairman at the time reminded me that it wasn't our business to collect taxes.
It's not our business to collect taxes.
That's what this is.
No, it's not.
I'm just bringing it up.
No,
This is what I brought up when we did that, and you said, well, I'm not arguing with you, I'm saying that's what you rightfully said.
I'm
I'm
saying,
not arguing with you, I'm talking, and Nathan started answering me. Okay, he brought it up, because I brought it up, because one of the leasers that wanted to, get the FBO has a bunch of airplanes that sit around. I go, it'd be great if we got those airplanes based here, maybe that would be one of the considerations. And Nathan said, we're not in the business of making sure that we get this tax. I just brought it up. Not saying
That's
it's
not what I
wrong.
said.
may I speak?
I'm done.
The issue is not that. The issue is, if I understand it, and I'm asking this as a question. Limestone County collects tax from all of us that pay anyway, on a value based on our airplane. And it goes into Limestone County's general revenue. What you're trying to do is get that revenue, some of that revenue from Limestone County back to the airport.
Correct.
Okay, that's fair.
And essentially, it's not, by state law. I mean, it dictates how taxes are to be issued, specifically the ad valorem tax on, vehicles and other property to include aircraft. And so that's written in state law. So that's not going to change. What it is though is if I own an airplane and I'm not paying taxes on it, what are we as the airport authority going to do about it? Because right now, there's nothing in stone that says that you are in violation of our rules and regulations. Now you are to get out of our lease premise because you're not paying, and Limestone County would be the one that says, hey, this end number is not paying.
That's right. It's
we're-
Limestone County's responsibility to make sure they pay taxes, right?
Correct. But
Most
Limestone
airports-
County can't come in and say that airplane's not paying, get them out.
Oh, no, but they can say that airplane's based here because it happens at other airports. My aircraft was claimed by Silicaga. And I had to write them a letter because the county in Silicaga, I can't remember what county it is, but they claimed my airplane, the Twin Comanche, was based in Silicaga, and it had been based there in 7 years. And I fought like dogs with them
Yes, sir.
over it. So it's the county's responsibility. I don't know that it's ours, but anyway, that's not a bad idea. I just don't know that it's our responsibility.
I think it's not our responsibility, but if we had it in there, I think it would help Limestone County be more interested in giving us that revenue if they knew that we had something in our rules and regulations at least to.
You want to as the county commissioner, give us that revenue? That'd be great.
That would be great.
That'd be awesome if you went and asked them for that $300,000. Good luck.
Well, I mean, we're working on that,
Sure.
and that's
Okay.
a hope.
Okay, we don't have to do something here, right?
No, sir, I'm just discussing.
Adam, to your recollection, have you ever had a warrant or a writ issued to the airport?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
All right. Moving on to reports. Airport Director's report. Adam?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Moving into this, we are seeing some exceptional numbers. Going into the Jet A sales for the month of June, We're at 30,538 gallons. This compares to June of last year of only 18,612 gallons. Month prior, for the month of May, we sold 31,977 gallons. Our annual year to date is 235,287 gallons. Our previous year to date is 174,848 gallons. This is a difference of 60,439.23 gallons. So we have sold 60,000 more gallons this year to date than the previous year to date. 100 LL avgas sales were at 4,867 for the month of June, comparing that to 4,738 gallons for the month of June in 2023. Month prior, so the month of May of 2024, we sold 5,474 gallons. Annual year to date is 38,742 gallons. Our previous year to date for the same time period is 43,600. So we are just a little bit behind, basically almost a month behind, but we still are seeing increase for the last 2 months from our monthly total. So there's hope that we'll finish out the year strong, especially with the flying season coming up. FBO by the numbers, our revenue off of fuel sales for the month of June is 177,234. Cost of goods sold is about $111,308, which leaves us with a gross profit margin of 37.2%. This is really, really good numbers. This is the best we've seen since we've been keeping track of it. Operations, going into it, sales by item for the month of June total was $228,513.72. Our fees, airport service fees, FBO fees, this is to primarily to our transit. There was a $25 fee to a base tenant. Outside of that, it is folks flying in from out of state, out of country. Total fees is $24,800. I keep reiterating, for the FY21, it was a little over 25,000 for the entire year. So 24,000 for 1 month is pretty good. That's all I have for the FBO report. I'll stand for any questions on that.
Questions, Brad?
Good report.
No questions. Go into the Vertile report to kind of talk about some of the operations here. Total operations, 1,451 for the month of June. This is comprised of 999 operations from single engine, 80 from single engine turbine, multi-engines 41, multi-engine turbine 77. This number is the one that I'm most proud of, which is business jet 181. North Alabama's growing, and that number, as it continues to grow, tells me that story. Some of the noteworthy aircraft that I'll mention, several G550s, several Gulfstream 280s, several Falcon jets, and as far as leading operations, it's actually the Gulfstream 280, which is there's one firm in North Alabama that is doing a lot of visits here, so very proud of that. I'll stand for any questions on the Vertile report. That's all I've got there. If none, public involvement, keeping it short, one of the things that I will mention that's noteworthy, that's very important, and I've beat this horse to death multiple times, but state budget coming out of ALDOT for airports, 78 airports in the airport system is $8,200,000. 8.2 million is his total. Our friends to the east is north of 115 million. Our friends to the south is north of 400 million. Tennessee is 105 million. Mississippi is 15 million. We're at 8.2. The Aviation Council of Alabama approved in the month of June to hire a lobbyist to work with our legislator going up in the fall into the spring session to hopefully dedicate some more funds to our airport system. After all, a lot of the tourism, a lot of the other things that people are very proud about in the state of Alabama actually comes from airports as well. So obviously with us here, we've got just under 9 million in projects that have been funded over the course of the last 12 months, and the state's budget is only 8.2. So this is just one snapshot. So very, very proud of that. That was a historic moment for the state. Hopefully it bears fruit.
What, sorry to butt in here, but what is percentage wise, what is that budget compared to the overall LDOT budget?
That I don't know, but I'm sure that will come out in the next coming months, but it
It
is,
would seem like 8.2 million would rank us dead last in terms of funding.
I'm sure it is.
But then I would think you'd do it on the ratio of what their total transportation budget was.
I do know if we look at population from like, let's say Georgia, because they just did a huge hike. If we compare that and we use that same ratio, we should be at about 55 million for the state of Alabama. So we are way behind. Another public involvement, we're on several boards. I think it's between me and staff. I think we sit on 6 or 7 boards. None of them are as exciting as this one, obviously with all the things that we've got going on here, but we do have a lot going for us in North Alabama, through the EDA boards, through the chambers. And so that's very good for North Alabama. Last thing I'll mention, intern completed his tour here with us from Decatur Public Schools Foundation. He did great. It's very handy as far as helping us. He's very motivated, which is something you don't see on a lot of young people. So that was very encouraging. That's all I have for the public involvement. Last thing I'll mention that's on the agenda is, I had it in there for last meeting, the fly-in Saturday. With the Oshkosh, the 4th of July, all the other things, several partners of the airport mentioned that the second Saturday is the best as far as other airports hosting things. So we are looking at an open house again, and the second Saturday in August. So information will be coming out on that as I get them, but looking forward to having everybody here, having some food trucks, and hopefully have some good flying weather to get some good airplanes out of the hangars, get the dust off of them, get some avgas sold. The last thing that's not on the agenda, but I do want to mention it in my report today, moments before we got into the board meeting, I received a letter of intent from a government contractor looking to build on the southeast. This is usable hangar space is 35,000 square feet. They want at least in phase 1 enough parking for I believe it's 75 employees. So this is good news. I will be giving this out to you all confidentially as things progress, and hopefully have this on the docket for consideration to accept the letter of intent. They do have some things in there that they're asking of us to commit to. Some of it has to be changed based on our policies. I'll plan to work with them in the remainder of the week and upcoming weeks, and hopefully I'll have that on the agenda for approval at next board meeting. And that's all I have as far as my report.
I'd like to go back to the tax thing because I just want to make sure how it works. I have 3 airplanes. One of them's ADS-B, one of them's transponder, one of them has no electrical system. How does the state know that I have the Cub here, but doesn't know that there's a Hangar Queen in the south hangar? Because when I fly, I don't leave a footprint. So how does the county know, or how does the state know to tax me? Because I get taxed on all of my planes.
So,
And
can I make a comment?
the only one I had a conflict with was the one that had ADS-C or ADS-B. And I had to fight with him over, hey, it's based here, it's not in Silicaga.
Issue that they thought Mom and Day's Huntsville, and it's landed on so like 4 times.
Madison was claiming it, right?
Yeah, so they work with ADS-B, so if you have a block out N number, that is a problem. Also, they'll look at registration, so if yours is registered, but a lot of people have their airplanes registered to some,
Like Delaware.
yeah. and
Yeah,
then
it's a
places-
domicile, it's not where it's registered.
Yes, but if you have it registered to that, they don't necessarily always track it, like, they can for sure track yours, even if you don't have ADS-B, because you're registered.
Okay, now that makes sense, the registration in Delaware or
Or-
wherever, anywhere. Yes, absolutely, that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is why doesn't Limestone County come out here and walk through the hangar? Because when I built my house out in the country, all of a sudden, I started getting taxed on it because I was at a certain rate in my house. I didn't even know how they knew. They drove around. So why aren't they coming out here? I mean, do we
That I don't know
allow them
what
to, right?
that needs to know, so.
Ends up right there.
As a previous board member years ago, and I don't know how it's been done since then, okay? But years ago, the FBO provided a list to the Limestone County of the hangar tenants. Years ago. Don't know that that's, and that may be what
Yeah.
you're asking for permission to do, is to provide them a list so that you can work together. I'm not.
The question for Nathan is would that violate anything in our rules and regulations? Cause, and I ask you because you rewrote most of it.
Not that I'm aware of.
What would stop
Comment,
us from
comment
just,
the comment you referenced earlier was, we are not tax collectors.
that's what you, that's what I took it from you when we were talking about somebody moving over here, building a hangar. And I said, well, it'd be great because we'd have these airplanes here. And you're like, you said, well, John, we're not tax collectors. And
We have a
you're not
duty.
wrong about that.
We
So,
have a duty to follow the law. If
Right.
somebody shows up and says, I want to look in the hangars, show me the warrant or show me the document that allows you to do it. We are not the policemen. We are not to be doing that. That crosses so many legal lines to be doing stuff like that. It's the same as if a landlord went into your apartment without your knowledge. They gotta have a legal right to do it, and we better be very dang clear
Well-
on who's doing it. Now, providing a list of based aircraft here, I don't think that crosses, because we have
That's-
basedaircraft.com.
that's what I'm wondering is we don't need to change anything to help out.
But if somebody just randomly calls and says, did tail number Tango 12345 land here? I don't think we should be answering that question.
I would agree with you.
Adam, just out of curiosity, have they asked you for a list of based aircraft?
Limestone County does not, it's state administered, so the state actually is the one that hands Limestone County the document that says you are to
The state
issue
needs to do that.
invoices. The state has asked about setting up a meeting to come out here to sit down. They basically told me that, they watch basically FlightAware. They have, alluded, Limestone County, excuse me, they have alluded that, the funds that they are issuing invoices for does not necessarily match what I think it should be, which I threw out a number based on the formula of what I somewhat think it should be, which is somewhere close to $300,000. We're not near that number supposedly. I have not gotten anything from Limestone County Commissioner, but I have asked for the reverse of it. Instead of me providing, which we do have to report on what aircraft is based here. And that's actually how we get our funding. And that's the basedaircraft.com, and that's a federally administered. The state, to my knowledge, does not have access to that yet. But it's a FlightAware ADSB style system and something to do with maybe registration. I know my aircraft is registered in Hartsville, but yet I'm paid Limestone County taxes. And how that works is essentially if your aircraft by state law lives here for the majority of the year, so basically 6 months, I think it's actually at the calendar day, then you have to pay this tax. And so if you're registered to Delaware or any other state, it's where the aircraft lives. And so, I just think that, my point being is that I think that we need to have something on paper to help facilitate that, to make sure that we're not in the middle of a hairy situation. If somebody is in tax fraud, because that's what it is, essentially, I don't want us to be in there to say, well, they're a tenant, they've got rights. I'd rather say they're actually violating our rules and regulations if they're not paying taxes. And so theoretically, we're gonna break the lease because of that. And so then we can get that person that's not paying taxes and have somebody else come in, because I would say that there's a good chance that they're probably gonna be the people that aren't flying. And so, anyways, it's just a means of protecting the authority from a situation that could or could not pop up in the future. But I do think that working with Limestone County Commission, to get some of these taxes back will bear fruit for them as well as us, whether if it's a time period, because we can then use those funds to get more aircraft based here. And then at the end of it, there's more ad valorem tax being collected in Limestone County. That's all right. So that's all.
Questions on his report? All right, moving on to public comments. Any public comments?
I think this whole discussion about the taxation is getting hairy. The airport will end up becoming a defendant in some sort of case at some point. And the state of Alabama sends out everybody that has an airplane registered, if it's in the state of Alabama, they send out a form where you declare what you have. If you're a Delaware company, they will send it to the registered agent, which is normally somewhere here, or you can even have a registered agent in Delaware, but that is their problem, not ours. Our lease specifies that you're not gonna allow anybody to go into the hangar without notice, and I'm good with that. To Nathan's point, if somebody called up on the telephone and said, did Cherokee 5046 Whiskey land? I'm gonna expect that you say, I don't know. That's not anybody's business. So without a warrant, I would stay out of it. And that's coming from a person that pays a lot of damn taxes. And I don't want to pay any more, and I don't want people getting in my business, because it's not about the taxation, it's about my privacy. Everything that we do is under a microscope everywhere, and this is this one small bit of sanctuary that I have out here where we're all equals. We're all flying airplanes, we all love aviation, and whether or not the county gets their due, they're getting it from me, but whether or not they get it from a hangar mate or anybody that flies in here, I don't care. It's not my business, and I understand that you're in a position that you have to generate funds for the airport, but it's gonna be an issue at some point, especially if we try to make a rule about it. And then we have to follow those rules. And I'm all about following the rules, so be prepared for what's coming if you put this in print. And if you're doing everything that you do with basetenants.com or whatever that is, hey, that's enough. My opinion. Thank you.
To clarify, we get calls all the time for various things. We don't give out personal information as far as your lease going. You know, and the rules and regulations, the only person that's allowed is, basically me and my staff. We're not inviting anybody out and open up hangars. I'll say that publicly, we're not. We're not in the business of how do they get the information. The way that I see it is one side of the house is written in stone that you have to pay taxes. You have to, in other words, we don't want to be in the situation, because it does violate rent assurances. We want to be fair across the boards. That was the main basis behind bringing it up for discussion. But no, I mean, they can come out just like any other public facility and sit out there and write down end numbers. They can do that all they want. Last thing I want to do is go and open up a hangar and say, here's the airplane.
But on the converse of that, I don't want this airport to become like other airports that I fly into, where they are sitting there and watching in numbers and they're sending me a landing fee. And just because I need a touch and go for currency, I've gotten those. And, you know what, the hell with that, I won't ever fly there again.
Yeah, I didn't envision, and I plan to combat that. My intent for bringing it up tonight is solely to make it a level across the field as far as documenting. And if we do have a situation, a hypothetical that I use, that somebody's not paying taxes, theoretically, yes, that's the airport in the future, if an agreement is struck, that we're missing out on funds, right? But
then comes, how do you prove, how do I prove to you that I'm paying my taxes? And
I don't
bring
care.
up my
No.
receipt? I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, no.
Because that's not anybody's business here at the airport. So when you say that it's gonna violate, that a grant assurance or whatever, I get it. But how, without asking somebody to present their documentation, how do you know?
Well, it's not our job to get into that. That would be
Correct.
the state and Limestone County. If Limestone
If
County
it
says,
comes up in a I apologize for interrupting, but if it were to come up that, you know, John Doe was accused of tax fraud, and it came up that his airplane they didn't pay the proper tax, ad valorem tax, you know, and that's posted in the newspaper, or you get wind of it, and it's a public record, and of course, at that point, you could execute a whatever by our rules of our lease, you know.
But we don't have that right now. So that's what I'm saying. You know, we don't have anything that says I can take action against them if they are on the front page of the paper for tax
And
evasion.
I don't think we ought to change that. I don't think that that's our
Because
business.
they could come, and this is the
They're
way.
paying their lease for their box hangar, and they have an airplane in there
Just wait
that
for
is
the-
airworthy, then, you know,
Yeah, I guess my point is just, you know, thinking through that, of, you know, guarding us, you know, from a fugitive, so to say.
I think they're pretty safe
Yeah.
as far as this goes. I don't see how if we put a pencil on it, that will open up the airport to additional scrutiny.
That's why I was saying that Nathan, when he said that to me, talking about another lease, you know, somebody that wanted to buy the FBO, when I brought it up, he said it's none of our business, and I agreed. At one time with him.
Any other public comments?
Move to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 6:01. Good job.
It's off the record. Have you found us any more pictures?
Yourself up,
Have you found us any more pictures? Remember, you found